Salutations, and welcome to More Movies Weekly, number 27.
Bond. James Bond.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast where we like to talk about films, movies, cinema, all of that sort of stuff. My name's Greg Fisher. This legend sitting next to me is David Roberts. How you doing, my good friend David Roberts? Are you stroking your invisible cat there?
It's my invisible cat. I'm very well in my evil lair, Mr. Fisher.
You're such a dastardly bad guy. I love it. So this week we have been to the cinema and watched No Time to Die. So this episode is a bit of a No Time to Die special. We're going to try and avoid spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, don't worry. You should be pretty safe to keep on watching with us. We understand, of course, if you'd rather go and watch the movie, but then come back and join us and see what we thought of it. But without further ado, Dave, let's crack on. So this week we are on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Tucker, you're an agent working for Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Talking about the latest James Bond adventure. We just went to the pictures last night. The Odeon in the Red Dragon Centre in Cardiff. Fantastic theatre. But there we go. We've watched it. Can I just say as well that the director of the film has got fuck in his name. Start as we mean to go on as childish as possible, but just reading it then, I didn't even notice last night when reading it in the credits, but it's Cary Joji Fukunaga. Fukunaga. You say fu to avoid the fuck. It's probably Fukunaga. Yeah. He did a good job, I thought. Yeah. Because let's start off with by saying, you know, Danny Boyle was originally attached to the project, and you know, I mean, the history of getting this film made is a whole thing in itself.
I mean, there's been so much turmoil for this film's production. It's quite bewildering. I mean, yeah, originally Danny Boyle, and they left it. It's been through multiple writers, lots of different writers attached to it, and different musicians attached to it. It's just been different cinematographers. It's been through the boil over and over, pardon the pun, over and over again. It obviously got delayed because Craig initially after Spectre said, I'm not going to do another one. Fuck that franchise.
And then they got the checkbook out. They put another zero on the end.
Here we go, Daniel. We'll give you some more money. Yeah.
Go on, then.
And then, of course, it's been delayed 3 times due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then finally, the finished product is on the screen. And
and we got to see it.
Journey.
Yeah, it has been. It's been quite a journey for us because we've been doing the podcast or a podcast now for over a year. And I think a year ago yesterday, we were talking about the fact that it had been put back till April. Then obviously April come around, they put it back again. And then now it's October 2021. We've just got to see it. It's doing well at the box office, which is nice to see. And more than anything else, it was nice to just get out and go to the cinema again. And it's just one of those types of films. It's made for the big screen. It's designed to be seen in that format. And I wouldn't like the first time I've seen it to be on my TV screen, you know? So really great to do that.
Which is a good reason why they delayed it, really. They waited for it to come out. But as you say, you know, it was great to be back in the cinema. It's great. It's done very well at the box office, 119 million on its opening weekend. That's just 17% down on Spectre. So considering all the issues with pandemic and only opening up and stuff, it's actually done very, very well.
Yeah.
Which is a really positive sign, not only for cinemas and film, but I think generally in society that everything is starting to get back to places where it used to be. So it's a really positive step forward, and it was a nice experience. So, I mean, it's No Time to Die. This is the 5th and final outing. Daniel Craig in the role as James Bond. Everyone is back. Léa Seydoux, Ben Whishaw, Naomie Harris, Jeffrey Wright, Christoph Waltz,
Ralph Fiennes,
and Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah.
All back in their great roles. And this time we're joined by Rami Malek, Lashana Lynch, Billy Magnuson, Ana de Armas, David Dennick, and Dali Ben Salah. So it's a huge, big cast of everyone in there, and they're all brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
I must say.
That's the first thing I wanted to say, actually, that I think Daniel Craig was brilliant in this one.
Yeah.
You know, even more so than all of the others, his acting in this was really standout. I thought he was great in it.
He was, and I think it was definitely the kind of, it's my last one, so I'm going out with a bang and I'm going to throw everything into this, and he did, and he was on top of it. It's lovely as well to, you come to the end of this cycle of the Bond films, and it's nice to go this wrapped package of Daniel Craig's films and the journey, and it has been fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're right there as well, that they sewed it up as from Casino Royale all the way through to No Time to Die is like there is a beginning, a middle, and an end to this particular section of the saga, and it kind of elevates it and puts it out on its own as part of the Bond franchise, because in the past, all the Bond movies, they've enjoyed a tradition of what has happened in the past, and sometimes there are little allusions to little things that might have happened in previous films, but you don't get that feeling that they're one after the other. It could be any time. They're kind of, they're just single episodic adventures, whereas with the Daniel Craig films, they've actually done it where it's like, it's basically Casino Royale and 4 sequels. And all of the films are tied into one another, and they all make sense in that way. So that's kind of an impressive part of it for me.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, how it's, the continuous cast and the continuing storylines throughout. I've watched all of the films prior to watching this over the last weekend, and it's been such a joy to everything connects together, all the little things. And it's like, there's a few moments of, that didn't work, but mostly overall, you're there going, yeah, this is a complete story. And I really enjoyed that, because the one thing I'd say about this No Time to Die is it was the biggest comment I could do it was brave and daring, and they followed through on everything. They didn't throw things away like other Bond films have in the past or anything like that. It was like,
one could say they stuck to their guns.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is great, yeah, and I think that's a very, very good point. It's nice that they didn't go too wild and try and do something too bombastic like they did with the last Pierce Brosnan film, Die Another Day, which just totally fell flat on its face because they tried to do too much. Whereas this one, they stuck with their guns. They produced something which was, in my mind, a very satisfying conclusion to the Daniel Craig era. Another part of it that I really enjoyed in this movie was the music. So we've got Hans Zimmer behind the conductor's lectern in this one, and he did a great job. And one of the things that I enjoyed about it most, which I don't think is really a spoiler about people, is but they brought a lot of the themes in from all of the previous Bond films. He wove them in to the score, and I appreciated that. As a fan of the series as a whole, it was really nice to hear some of those motifs come back in.
Yeah, I think he did brilliantly. There's lots of musical motifs and homages across the entire, which is perfect. I mean, it's the 25th anniversary, so there's a lot of allusions to different things, and it worked great. There was the biggest comparison in this film is on Her Majesty's Secret Service. There's lots of little jingles from that. There was nods to Dr. No and the James Bond theme, and they're all interwoven in just little tiny sequences, but it was really nice. And as we say, plenty of references to Bond littered throughout there, which were really nice. Bond's little hideaway houses in Jamaica, which is where they were in Dr. No, which of course is where Ian Fleming wrote the novels. The circles for the beginning of the title sequence, which are kind of a nod to Dr. No's original title sequence. The Aston Martin DB5 back from Goldfinger with all the gadgets and guns and whatnot on there.
There was loads in there. There was
loads of
it's like you said, it's the 25th anniversary, so they put as much of that sort of stuff in as they could without it being over-egged. And it's done it was subtle ways that they did it, and I think that's great, So the story itself, let's read out the synopsis from IMDb, which says James Bond has left active service. His peace is short-lived when Felix Leiter, an old friend from the CIA, turns up asking for help, leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. Fair enough. I think that sort of sets it all up for what it was. I don't want to say too much about what happens in it because I want people to see it for themselves. No. And it's nice that whole thing, we kind of knew after Spectre he was done with MI6. It kind of, was retired from the service, the 00 service, so to speak. So there's no big surprise there. And I like the fact that they've used that character. Felix Leiter has come back in, and he's the one that sort of tempts him back into it and gets him involved again. Great to see Jeffrey Wright back in that performance. He's done a really good turn as Felix Leiter, I think. He was excellent in Casino Royale.
He was all the way through. He's been great, and one of my favourite kind of side characters, really. And it's great that they brought him back again one more time. He had to, really, and I mean, it does pick up straight away from the back end of Spectre with Madeline. As we say, it's that continuous story that's running through these films. So
with the Bond films, you always get the gun barrel intro, and then you're into this. All I'm going to say is it starts with a flashback, and I won't say what of or anything else about that, but that first 5-10 minutes flashback sequence, I thought was one of the best openers for any Bond film. I was so impressed with that. It really set the atmosphere, and it was like, oh, they did something different with it, which I appreciated.
The atmosphere was brilliant. It was horror, basically.
It was almost akin to a horror film, complete with quite impressively done jump scares, to be fair. And it was unexpected. You know, when you open a Bond film, you usually expect to see a certain thing. He's usually on some sort of mission somewhere before you go into the main story. And they didn't do that this time. They did something else. Obviously, you're going to have to see it to see what. But I thought that first 5-10 minutes was... Ooh.
We really get two pre-title sequences, I guess. We get the first one and then the second one before we get into the classic title sequence that we're used to with Bond, is set in Italy with Bond and Madeline. That's most of the stuff that you see in the trailer, really, isn't it? And that, for me, was my favourite sequence in the entire film. I thought that was breathtaking action.
Everything you expect from Bond. The frills, the spills, I always think great car chases, you know. So it did not disappoint in that sense. You're absolutely right. Not. It was like, oh, this is good.
And as a sequence, I just thought, you know, the sound design was impeccable. With the bikes and the cars, and you see some in the trailer, but just to watch that play out on screen as the kind of intro to a film, it was like you've gone from that first scene, which was really cool, and then this, it was like, whoa, this is cool. Or even the lines that he was giving were brilliant. The attitude of it was, it was spot on intro, and then the musical transition into it.
There we go, into the Billie Eilish song,
and it worked spot on.
I was going to say Billie Eilish singing the theme tune. To be honest, I hadn't really paid much attention to beforehand because they released it months ago with Skyfall when the theme tune came out, and it was Adele, and it was everywhere, and you couldn't get away from it, and it was a real earworm, and you kind of got into that. Yeah. Whereas with this new theme, Billie Eilish, I kind of missed it, and then to really get it as part of the film, you know, for the first time, I thought, wow, this is really great. She is a fantastic singer. What a voice she's got.
I remember when they first announced it, and I was like, really? And then when I listened to it when it first came out, it was about a year ago now, I guess, I was like, actually, this is really good. It became a bit of an earworm. It, of course, won the Grammy, I think. And
good.
But it's just, as you say, it's been so long since it, you kind of do forget a bit about it, and then it comes in the film, and it works really well.
Well, I think, you know, without saying too much more about it, because there's not a lot more we really can say without spoiling it, I would say I was impressed.
Yeah, I think it's a very good film, a very good outing. The action is great, the acting, the effects, it's funny. It really does have everything in there. My only issues came to things like pacing, and I felt like there were scenes missing, like they've cut things, and whether that's for timing or other reasons,
I feel like what we could do is we could come back to this film, and then once people have had more of a chance to see it, we can sort of do a breakdown. I think we should do, as part of our saga series, the Daniel Craig era Bonds, and we can go over all of them then as one, you know, entire opus.
Continuous thing.
And sort of break them down that way. Maybe that's something that people will be interested in hear us talk about in the future. I know what you're saying about some of those issues. One thing I would say, though, is that there was this whole thing about, it's 2 hours, 43 minutes. It didn't feel like that to me. I could have done some more, actually. I could have done another 15 minutes, no problem. I didn't. I was just into it. And, there are issues with it. There are things that I think we can't really talk about now and pick apart. And they're probably minor things anyway, to be honest. Overall, I think it's a good film. But there is stuff that in there we had issue with. We've spoke about between ourselves that we feel they didn't get it exactly right, or this or that could have been better, and blah, blah, blah. But generally, as a sort of final chapter to the Daniel Craig era, I thought they did a stonking job. It's a thumbs up from me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a thumbs up. And it for the end of Daniel Craig era, it made sense.
Yeah.
It's a film that makes sense for the end of this. And go and check it out. Go watch it.
Absolutely. What do you think? Have you already done that? Have you been to see No Time to Die yet? Let us know in the comments and let us know what you thought. Try and avoid the spoilers, because it's unfair to people that haven't seen it yet. But if you enjoyed it, let us know. If you didn't, you could let us know as well. That's all cool. Not everybody's going to love it. But there we go. No Time to Die.
Well worth the wait.
So, as this is a bit of a James Bond special this week, and now that is Daniel Craig's final outing in the role, who do you think should be playing James Bond in the future?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's been everyone's obviously talking about it. They've been talking about it for a while, I guess. And lots of names have been brought up, and lots of different ideas from people of what could happen. And to be honest, I've flicked between many different ideas over the last year. We did speak about this last year at some point during the podcast. But having now seen No Time to Die, having coming away from it, having caught up on the Daniel Craigs again recently, which is I was thinking, what can they do with Bond next? And a new thought came into my head that I actually think, to completely reboot the franchise again, kind of like they did with Daniel Craig, but to really go for it this time. And my basic idea is to have a nice really young James Bond as he leaves naval intelligence, as he leaves his military career, becoming 00, and to start from scratch and create a brand new universe based on a really young Bond going on some crazy adventures. And I have found the perfect person to cast, which is Phil Dunster.
Phil Dunster? Jamie fucking Tart?
Jamie Tart, Jamie Tart.
You probably don't know what we're talking about unless you are, of course, fans of the show Ted Lasso.
That's it.
In which Phil Dunster plays a character, Jamie Tart. Interesting choice, Dave. I can't disagree with you on it in terms of a young Bond. He's got the look. He's definitely got the look. But unless it was a young James Bond, as you're proposing, he is a bit too young for the role. I would probably go more for somebody like Jamie Dornan, the Northern Irish actor. I think he's got something about him that would be a good Bond. I mean, he's just under 40, so by the time they were ready to cast him and put him in the film in a couple of years, he'd be about 41 or so. I think that's probably a right sort of age for a Bond to start in the role, and because anything too much younger, I think it would be too young for Bond, because he's supposed to have already had his military career, and then as a 00, maybe in his 30s and into his 40s. I don't know, but I don't think Cavill should do it. I don't think Tom Hardy should do it.
No.
Those guys are a bit, the wrong side of 40 now, I suppose, as well, and they're a bit too beefy, a bit too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people seem to be picking up lots of big, muscly guys that are too big. They're picking people that are too old for the role, and stuff like this. And yeah, some of the choices that people come up with, I'm just like,
I don't think like Tom Hardy's not too old to play him right now, this minute. But by the time they get production going and you've done 3 or 4 films, then he is.
Well, that's the thing, because
you need someone a bit younger that can do at least 5 or 6 films, and then
this is the things to consider. It's like you're not casting for one film.
Okay,
you're casting for
a series of films.
Yeah, you want at least 4 or 5 out of them. Really.
Otherwise, you're going to do a George Lazenby and have that kind of
exactly, and I don't think that works. And you've got to think, it's not. You're not going to start production on a film till at least probably about 2 years, I reckon, from this point.
At least, and that's probably pre-production and stuff as well. So we're looking at maybe 3 years until they're ready to release another one. So I say Jamie Dornan, you say Jamie Tart. So it'd be Jamie Bond, one way or another. If we're still podcasting in 3 years' time, we'll be able to come back and look at what we said, and we'll see who they got then anyway. So what do you think at home? Who's your choices for the next James Bond? If you've got any lined up, let us know in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond. It's been nice knowing you.
So what I thought we'd do for the next section, Dave, is pick out our top 5 James Bond films. So this is something we've done as part of our podcast now and again over time. We used to do it all the time on our former podcast, The Movie Show. We've done a couple since, I think, top 5 wrestling and top 5 Pride movies. Now it's our top 5 James Bond movies. So as we do usually, let's start at number 5 and work our way down to number 1. Let's kick straight in with number 5. Take away the doors. Let's see what we had. Okay, so there we go. I have got Live and Let Die. Roger Moore's first outing as Bond, 1973. This one's a little bit different. It's kind of, I always thought this is as close as James Bond gets to blaxploitation, because you've got the great Yaphet Kotto, the late great Yaphet Kotto as Kananga, and his bunch of goons. You got Baron Samedi in there, and Teehee and Whisper and all those guys. And you've got a young Jane Seymour in there as Solitaire. It's a really good sort of first outing, I think, for Roger Moore. It's got all of the great ingredients you expect to see in a James Bond film, and a fantastic theme song from Paul McCartney, the man himself. Who doesn't love that? Himself. It's just the best. I think it's the best Bond song, personally. So that was my number 5 choice. Yours was From Russia with Love. From Russia with Love. Another great theme tune. Who sang that one? Matt Monro?
Yeah, Matt Monro, From Russia with Love. I just think this is... I've always liked From Russia with Love. I think it's the kind of darkest of Connery's Bonds. It's the grittiest. That they fight on the train carriage is
against Robert Shaw. Brilliant.
Against Robert Shaw is brilliant. It's aggressive. It's nasty. You can see how many films are taking inspiration from such a great sequence. It's just Connery is best for me in any of them films, and it's just a more. It feels like it would fit in something like Daniel Craig's era, as a film. You'd go, and that's more my style. So, yeah.
Okay, so working our way down now to our number 4 picks. Let's take away the screen, see what we had. So, I had Diamonds Are Forever. Forever, forever. Which is Sean Connery's last performance as Bond for the official canon. Of course, he came back in 1983, I think it was, and did Never Say Never Again. But we don't count that one. So, yeah, Sean Connery's last performance as Bond. He came back after Lazenby left. So they must have had to get the checkbook out there. Broccoli must have been like, oh, my God.
Definitely did, yeah.
Because there's no way he would have come back to it. You can tell he's a little bit older in it. It's the 70s, so it's a new era in the world as well as the new era for Bond. One of my favourite things about it is you've got Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, who are the campiest, most creepy, hilarious villains from the whole franchise, if you ask me. It's got all the other stuff in it you'd expect to see in a Bond film. He nearly gets cremated at one point. I remember watching that as a kid. And they put him in the coffin and put him through the, cremation oven. And I remember thinking, that's quite, sort of had an effect on me at the time. And of course, as I mentioned at the start, you got that wonderful Shirley Bassey theme tune as well.
I've gone for number 4, On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yep.
Of course, which just precedes Diamonds Are Forever. It's a very good film, very different from Connery's films. Again, a bit grittier, a bit different, trying different things.
Yeah.
Was not received well at the time.
No.
But in retrospect, people really appreciate the performance. It's a shame that Lazenby didn't do more.
Yeah.
Of course, the famous ending. He gets married, and what happens there is, it's the best ending to a Bond film. Almost, in some ways.
Yeah, it is. It is in a lot of ways
because it does something so different and leaves you there going, "What?"
Yeah, it's kind of a downbeat ending, and that in itself is a brave thing to do. You've also got the "We got all the time in the world." Fantastic theme song, yeah. Okay, so for our number 3 choices, take away the screens. Let's see what we had. I have gone for GoldenEye, 1995, which was Pierce Brosnan's first outing as James Bond. It kind of relaunched the franchise, reinvigorated it. Pierce Brosnan to me was like the archetypal Bond. He was like, you just look at him in a tuxedo, holding up a piece, and it's like, there he is, there's James Bond. It's one of the best Bond films, I think, of the whole franchise. That's why it's in my top 5. I love the fact that 006 is in there, played by the amazing Sean Bean. I love Sean Bean as well. I think he's one of our great British actors. It's just such good fun. You got that tank chase. You got Robbie Coltrane in there as well. And a great theme song from Tina Turner. It's got all the ingredients. I love it. What do you think of GoldenEye?
I think it is one of the very best. I've just done a review of it. That's going to be on the YouTube channel, so you can go and check out the full review where I break down some of the bits from it. But it is perfect. And as you say, Pierce Brosnan is, when you look at him, Bond, he had some unfortunate writing later on, which let him down. But he's great in the role. And yeah, I mean, Sean Bean's my favourite villain of all. 006 is my favourite villain of all Bond villains for me.
Absolutely. Okay, and for your number 3 pick?
Well, I've gone with Skyfall. I think it is a spectacular Bond film. All the kind of personal elements brought into Skyfall really changed what Bond is about. You finally start digging into some of his past and delving into the character, which is something that's, you in the past was usually brushed over. But here we really get into the nitty gritty of where he came from, who he is, and all, the psychological elements, and just fantastic.
Yeah, Javier Bardem is excellent as the antagonist, I think.
Yeah, spectacular. The whole kind of chasing through the tube stations and stuff in London is just
that's a great sequence.
Great stuff.
Amazing. When they get that bit where the train comes in through the blast hole and nearly takes him out. Wow, that is just super cool. Well, hold that thought, my friend, because we'll go straight into our number 2 picks. Take away the screens. My number 2 pick was Skyfall, so we'll continue talking about it. I think you're absolutely spot on about this film. It is just one of the best modern Bond films. It's certainly one of my favorites. I love the fact that it's stripped back to its bare essentials by the end. You found out all of that stuff about Bond and his past, and
but living in a house in the middle of nowhere makes far more sense than him going.
I love the fact that it's like they're held up. It's like an Alamo situation. They've hardly got any weapons. They got a couple of old dusty shotguns, and they got some rusty nails and some light bulbs, and they manage to take down this hit squad, just using their training and their wits. I love that whole end sequence. It was just so cool. And for me, one of my favourite Bond films.
It is spectacular. In number 2, I had, as you had, a number 3, GoldenEye. We just flipped around on these ones.
That brings us nicely onto our number 1 picks. Take the screens away. Okay, so I have gone for License to Kill. It was always my favourite Bond film because it's so different from all the others. I think so many of them do follow a certain formula. License to Kill, I felt, changed that formula. It was originally titled, the working title was License Revoked because he has it taken away from him, and then he just goes rogue and it's a revenge mission, and it's very modern bad guy in a sense as well. It's not one of these Volcano Layer type Blofeld sort of bad guys who's got like a Dr. Evil plan to take over the world. It's just some cocaine cowboy, basically. And I love that about it. It's quite a gritty film. It was the first Bond film to carry a 15 certificate. And I like Timothy Dalton's performance in it. It was like he was saying, we're just going to be some tough-ass, hard bastard British secret agent who's coming after these cocaine cowboys. And that's my reason why I have it as number one. It's like, it's so different. I loved it. And it's also got the greatest line out of any of the Bond films ever, compliments of Sharky.
Compliments of Sharky.
What about your number one choice, my friend?
After now watching them all in a row, revisiting them, Casino Royale is my favourite. It's my number one.
Fair enough.
The whole opening sequence with the kind of parkour running across the construction site, chasing down the terrorist, is just mind-blowing how
it's brilliant.
Well, it's put together. It's just the whole kind of grounded realism of it, starting at the very beginning, the kind of how he becomes an agent, the pacing of the film, the kind of thrills and build-up, I think is perfect. I actually think, watch them again, out of all of the films, this is the best paced. The whole sequence, and the people's complaint is usually about how long the film spends in the casino. It's highlight of the film. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah,
people go, "Oh, it's slow," and it's like, no, it's perfect. The way it builds up, the tension. You
think back to Dr. No as well. He was playing cards in that, and that whole thing. He always trumps the enemy, and it's very James Bond to have him playing poker.
All them different things that happen during that game when he almost has a heart attack from the poisoning and he has to go and get revenge. That last round nearly killed me.
There's a great line in it.
It is. The whole thing is just like, it's perfect, especially to set up the Craig era as well.
Oh, yeah.
And come on from Brosnan.
I totally agree with you there. It's a perfect start to the Daniel Craig era of Bond. So there you have it. There's our top 5 Bond films. Obviously, that comes with the caveat that they are interchangeable. We are, likely to change our minds. We could do this whole thing again next week and they might be completely different.
That's it.
It's not definitive. We're not trying to say these are the best Bond films ever made. We're just saying at this moment in time, these are our favorite Bond films from 5 to 1. And there you have it. What are your top 5 Bond films? Let us know in the comments. That just leaves us enough time to tell you what we've been up to elsewhere on the internet this week. So I'll start off by telling you we've done a reaction for the trailer for a forthcoming Tom Hanks film called Finch, which is a futuristic sci-fi apocalyptic style movie with Tom Hanks and a robot and a dog. Looks quite good fun. If you want to see our reaction to that trailer, the link is in the description below.
We've also, of course, got our latest film history article, which covers births, deaths, and events in the history of film. That's up on our website, along with all the other film history articles, so you can go and check them out. Link in the description down below.
Talking of articles, we also put together an article ranking all of the Bond films, including No Time to Die, from best to worst as we see it. So all 25 films are there, listed in an order that we think represent the very best to the very worst. So check that article out. Again, link in the description below.
And as I mentioned earlier, I have done a review this week for GoldenEye, of course, Pierce Brosnan's first outing as James Bond. The video for that is up here on the YouTube channel, and the link to the review on our website is in the description down below.
Dave, let me ask you, would you like a coffee?
Yeah, why not? I'll have a double shot peppermint martini latte, please. Shaken, not stirred.
Shaken, not stirred.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of coffee at the moment, but maybe one of our viewers be good enough to support us over at buymeacoffee.com. So the link is in the description below. If you enjoy the content we're producing here at More Movies, you can support us there. There's also patreon.com where you can become a More Movies patron and have a say on what films we review and we talk about here on the podcast. Both of those links, as I've said, are in the description below.
And don't forget to join us on social media at More Movies For You. That's across the board, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, etc., where you can see crazy things like the movie of the day.
Today's Bond movie of the day is my personal favourite. License to Kill was released in 1989 and stars Timothy Dalton in his second and final performance as 007. When Felix Leiter gets fed to the sharks, Bond goes rogue on a mission of revenge in order to take down the evil Franz Sanchez and his cocaine empire. Gritty, gruesome, and great fun. Well, Dave, I think that about wraps us up this week for our Bond special. Number 27 in the can.
Certainly does.
I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us. If this is you joining us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back. We'll see you again next week for More Movies Weekly number 28. And until then, take good care of yourself and keep watching more movies.
That's it for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember to like, share and subscribe right here on YouTube. For more film reviews and articles, check out our website moremovies.co.uk. And join us on social media at More Movies For You. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all across the board. You know the score. If you enjoy what we do, please consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com or join us on one of our packages on Patreon. The links are in the description down below. And for more filmtastic content, click one of the buttons on screen now.